Good evening, everybody. From the fridge, gonna start by grabbing myself some noodles because today I am clearing out the fridge after a weekend of not being home to make some broccoli, basil, and mushroom stir fry. So again, just want to kind of film this in one clip and just show you that making a 15-minute meal is pretty easy. So I got myself some mushrooms here. I got some ginger on the board, some garlic, those noodles, a little bit of basil in the back that's been wilting, and a head of broccoli that's been sitting in my fridge for about a week. Just start by slicing these mushrooms. I don't know why I chose this knife. It's really not good at all. So let me move to something a little bit faster. My knife that I've had since culinary school. So here's the thing, is that the cooking dinners actually takes no time at all if you kind of just look and say, not necessarily following a recipe. I don't have a recipe for this, but you can kind of follow along and see what I'm doing. And it's just all about kind of the cooking temperatures of things. So I'm cutting up these mushrooms. I started by slicing them, but I realized that they'll cook too fast this way. So I'm gonna just cut them in sixes, and I'm gonna try to keep everything around that same size because that way I don't overcook my stir fry. Those noodles that are in the back there, you get those at the store, not in the dry section. They're actually fresh noodles. It's really cool because those fresh noodles are about $1.30 or so. And you get about 4 portions out of them. I know it might seem like it's expensive, but they're fresh. They come in ramen, Hakka, all those things, so great stuff. So I'm just grabbing a plate here, and the reason why is just to get some of these things off my cutting board so I have a space to use up. But funny thing is, you'll notice in the back there that I turned on the wrong burner. Total idiot move. I'm not probably going to realize that for about 3 minutes. But yeah, so when doing ginger, the actual easiest way, if you want to be really quick about it, is use a spoon. You can actually use the spoon to scrape off the skin rather than cutting it the way I am. You waste a lot less. But I've had this in the fridge for a long time, so I'm just trimming all the edges. With ginger, I'm slicing it like this, which is thin. Starting by just whatever size it's in, I'm cutting it thin, and then I'm gonna cut it down a little bit further again. I don't want it to be pulsed or pureed because the smaller it is, ginger, just like garlic, burns really easily. So I'm cutting it in these little kind of like baton shapes, like like rough matchsticks, I guess, specifically because I want there still to have that nice bite. So I'm trying to keep the garlic about the same size as the ginger because they're gonna get fried at the same time. Again, trying to keep in mind that my pot of water is coming up to a boil. I was hoping that my pan was coming up to a hot sear, but clearly the back burner is still on and my pan is not hot. Hi, Winnie, hi! That's my little puppy. So I've got the ginger, got the garlic. Next thing is the broccoli. Don't be afraid to use that stem. I just scraped it off there with that little red paring knife that I put away at the start. But that actually has a good amount of crunch to it. There's a lot of vitamins, a lot of... Oh, there we go. I figured it out. The front burner is now on. Stupid me. So the stem itself, you just want to peel it down, and then you want to cut it fairly thin. Now, for eating raw purposes, if you want to do this when you're making broccoli sticks for crudité or whatever, just take a bite of the inside of it after you peel it and just see whether or not it's worth it or not. Weenie, want a treat? Sit. Good girl. So with the actual broccoli stems, if you take a bite of it and try it, and it seems completely crispy, it's not fibrous, you can use it in the stir fry. Don't waste it. When it comes to trimming down the broccoli, what I do is I normally just cut it in half. I start breaking off the florets. You can either cut them or you can break them off with your hand. Again, that center stem, a lot of people will throw that out. Just slice it up. It's a stir fry. Nothing pretty here. Once you're done breaking it up, just take off anything that you think is either discolored or not right. But just chop it up in equal sizes. Again, you want everything around the same size. So the first thing that's going to go in when you're cooking a stir fry is the thing that's the hardest. And I'm not going to be blanching anything because I want everything to kind of cook in one pot as much as possible. So I'm cooking the broccoli first. It should be the first thing to go in. And then I've got this beautiful basil here, which is obviously wilting, but it's gonna go in last. And that's gonna be the aromatics to the dish. So now that my pan is probably decently hot, I'm gonna start with my cooking oil. So this one here, I'm just using almost a flavorless olive oil. Grapeseed oil or something like that, sunflower would be a lot better because it has a higher smoking point. That's okay, so I'm just gonna start with that. The water is just coming up. You can see starting to just bubble a little bit. The next thing I need is sesame oil. And from the fridge again, I'm going to grab fish sauce. So this is a Thai fish sauce. Gives it that really funky flavor. And soy sauce. Now I typically use Japanese soy sauce for everything, not Chinese dark. And sriracha, obviously we go through a lot. You can see just how much is left in that bottle there. So you want to get the oil in, you want to get it up fairly hot, and then that's when you add the broccoli in. The broccoli itself is not going to cook all the way through this way without boiling it. I've kept it fairly in big chunks, but if you just give it a saute, being the first thing that's going to go in, it should cook down fairly quickly. So the one thing I forgot to actually prep is a onion. So I'm just going to grab any onion. Red onion would be better just because it's sweeter, but for this case I've got white onions just sitting there. So I'm going to break it down. Again, just think about keeping everything the same size. Everything's going to go in first, followed by the ginger, garlic, and the basil closer to the end. So this should really just be a rough chop of the onion. So just take the little ends off, cut it in half, and take those skins off. By doing this, it's a lot easier just to take the skin off. And you just want really that first layer of skin, but you'll notice that under it, there's a kind of like almost a slippery layer. Just try to take that slippery layer off. That's what's gonna cause you to slip and cut yourself. But I'm gonna cut this one probably in half, and then again, just like I said, a rough chop. You want it to be fairly big because you want them to still have some texture to it when they saute. So we're about 7 minutes in now to the cooking process. The water is going to be coming up to a boil. I can see it just starting to bubble now, so it's right about there. Again, we're trying to keep this at 15 minutes. Broccoli's in, onions in, and now we got to start thinking about the smaller things that are going to cook a lot faster. So if you have a big chunk of onion like this, you can always just push it down, try to break it apart. You can use your fingers at this point, it's not that hot, but it'll just help saute it a little bit quicker and get the insides cooked so you don't have that raw astringent onion. Looking pretty good now. Again, we're just about to hit 8 minutes. So at this point now, this is where I want to start infusing the garlic and the ginger into the actual broccoli and onions. So just clear off everything off the cutting board there, and now you want to start getting that in. The reason why I didn't add the garlic and ginger at the beginning is because it would burn very quickly. So I want it to still get crispy, but I don't want it to burn. And you notice that with the broccoli stems, because we cut them so much thinner, you don't want them to cook at the same time as the stems. So that's why I'm also adding them in at this point, because they're pretty tender in the middle already. So just give everything a stir, make sure nothing's just on the bottom, otherwise that will that'll probably burn. Again, easy stir fry. Just give everything a toss, and now we're going to start focusing on the aromatics piece of it as well. So if you notice that it's not sizzling or it doesn't have that kind of saute action, just add a little bit more of your cooking style oil to it, not the sesame oil. But this is kind of where you start to flavor the dish. So I'm going to add, it's about 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. That's going to help with the cooking. That's also going to absorb a lot into the actual meat of the dish, which is the onions and the broccoli. You want a decent amount of fat in there, like oil, for when you're adding the mushrooms, because the mushrooms, being so spongy, they're going to absorb a lot of that oil that's already in the bottom. And you also want to get the oil really hot so that the mushrooms saute. They don't just sit there and start to boil in the liquid. So at this point, adding the mushrooms, again, they're going to be one of the fastest things to cook. They're really absorbent. As this stuff's sauteing, it's also almost like steaming at the same time. So this should only really take about 3 minutes on the pan now to saute. We're just about to hit the 10-minute mark, so I've got to be quick because I want to keep this under a 15-minute meal for you guys. So put that stuff aside, and now that the mushrooms are going, just give yourself a little bit of a wipe off there, and try to get everything as organized and clean as possible. You can notice that I still haven't even cooked the noodles yet, and I'm trying to make this a 15-minute meal. I'm gonna start looking at opening that now because these things take about 1 to 2 minutes only to cook. It's a fresh noodle, and you get it from the fridge section, typically where the milk and eggs and tofu and all that stuff are. But you can see as you pull them apart, it is a fresh noodle. They come in little packages, so each one of those is enough for one person. So these are made for 4, and again, really cheap when they're on sale. They're 99 cents. So just make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. So just give that a stir. Everything's looking like it's pretty good now. Again, because it's a stir fry, you don't want everything to saute to the point where it's mushy. You want it to, you really just want it to kind of have a bit of crunch. So now I'm really starting to flavor it, and this is kind of the last 4 minutes of the cooking, or 3 minutes of the cooking. I'm adding the fish sauce. That's about 1.5 tablespoons. This stuff, you want to cook it. You don't want to add it in raw because first off, it stinks, but that's where the flavor comes through cooking. Then I'm gonna add soy sauce. Again, the pan is hot. You can see it's just like absolutely scorching right now. It's bubbling pretty hard. You want that soy sauce to reduce. And this is going to also be the salt in the dish, that and the fish sauce. I'm not going to use any additional salt whatsoever. It's just going to be the seasonings from that. So we've got the fish sauce in there now. We've got the soy sauce in there now. We're just going to give that a little bit of a toss to make sure that everything's getting coated. Just use, if you're using a cast iron like me, you're probably going to need to use a hot towel. I don't have my chef hands anymore. I've got clipboard hands. But yeah, just give that a taste. Make sure that the seasoning's there. It's probably, because the soy sauce, it's probably going to taste like it's fairly salty, but just remember that that's going to cook down, and you're also going to have the noodles aren't you're not going to just slightly salt the water there. So these go in. We're in the final 2 minutes of the cooking process, and at this point you want to start thinking about, again, how you're layering in those aromatics. So the onions and the broccoli have been cooking for somewhere around 7 minutes now, 6 minutes, just on saute, not on boil. And I'm gonna start to toss in these basil leaves. The basil leaves, you really wanna add them in at the last 2 minutes. Again, you're probably like, what the heck is, like, people associate basil with only Italian food. I've shown in previous videos, I did a yogurt bowl video that I said use basil as a savory component to the dish instead of mint, which goes well with strawberries. Well, basil goes really well with Asian stir fries and cuisine. So just get those basil leaves in there. Again, you don't want to add them very far out from the final cooking, and I'm in the final, about the final minute now of cooking. So just give everything a toss. Make sure that everything's incorporated well. You don't want to saute that broccoli. You just want it, or sorry, the basil. You just want it to be in there, and you want it to be aromatic. So just give those noodles a stir up. They take about 1 to 2 minutes depending on whether or not the water stopped boiling or not. But these specific ones here that I'm using they're almost like a ramen style noodle. Very quick to cook, very chewy, which is absolutely awesome. I can try and kind of share with you the name of it, but you can really just find them anywhere. Just look for the fresh ones. They freeze really well too. So now I'm gonna add the heat, which is going to be the sriracha. We like it pretty hot. Don't be afraid too much of the sriracha in this because it's gonna absorb a lot. It's not gonna be hit you in the face amount. But you wanna add that through. That's also gonna add with a little bit of soy sauce and fish sauce that's left in there to kind of thicken the remaining liquid that's in there. And yeah, this is pretty much it when it comes to the stir frying action. So we're at about 14 minutes now. So like I said, I wanted to keep it at 15, and now you're just gonna wanna get those noodles out. So they've been going for 2 minutes. You're just gonna wanna get those noodles out into your pan. They're fully cooked. You can try them if they're always gonna have a little bit of chew just because they're an alkali noodle. Unlike pasta noodles, like your traditional pasta noodle, which gets really soft when they cook. Alkali noodles are kind of the opposite. They kind of get firm, which is why when you're having ramen, you've got that really great bite. So just make sure you're getting everything into there. Sorry that I'm so clumsy when I'm doing this, but get everything into there. Try not to wait too long because these things will eventually overcook, but they hold themselves pretty together. So just mix everything in. Get ready for the final kind of just like toss, and then yeah, that's it. So we're at the 15-minute mark now, and that's a 15-minute stir fry right there, start to finish. So yeah, get ready to plate it. If you like this, again, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Would love to do more of these, and I'm going to show you how to just plate this at the end. So just start with the noodles in the bottom, and then just try to layer everything else on top after, which is all that beautiful veg. Because these noodles are so long, they're easy to separate. But noodles on the bottom, they've absorbed all that sauce, all that crispy, crunchy veg on top. And you could also at this point add more sriracha or more soy sauce if you want to. Toasted sesame seeds would really go good on top of this. But again, thanks for watching from the fridge. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, I'm gonna go enjoy my dinner. Nice broccoli, basil, mushroom stir fry. So from the fridge. Thanks a lot, guys.